Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Diana Show. I'm Diana Paquet, and today I got to interview Jennifer Williams. She is the entrepreneur who started St. Louis Closet Company, and I got to hear all about what it was like to start her company from the ground up on credit cards when she was 25 years old, back in the 90s, and her passion for volunteerism, why she thinks closet organization can really change your life, and some steps that you could do to quickly organize your home and just kind of take back control of things in your house. In this conversation, we talked a lot about how your mental health can really be affected by clutter in your home, and being able to find your stuff is such an important thing. Hi, Jennifer. I'm so excited to have you here today. Before we dig in, I wanted to tell everybody that you have St. Louis Closet Company, and you are someone I admire so much because you are a women-owned business. And I did a little research and I saw that you kind of started the whole thing on a few bucks and some credit cards. So I wanted to hear your inspirational story. First of all, just let us know who you are, how you got started, and why you were so inspired to get into this business.
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much for having me on, and hello to all your listeners. This is so exciting. Yes, I started St. Louis Closet Company 1991, so 34 years ago. I was 25 years old. I was in graduate school. I really had no idea what I was going to do. I was studying communications and public relations, and I just, like a lot of grad students, I was just in school to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine came to St. Louis from California, and he set up a custom closet company. He said, Jennifer, I think you would love this. So I was like, okay. So I got a part-time job working for this other closet company. I mean, this was in 1991. Custom closets were not well known. People didn't really know what that was, especially in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started working there, and I just knew it was like one of those things where, the light switch turned on. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love organization. I've always been organized. I saw instantly the great joy and happiness and satisfaction people got once they got organized. I was like, I can do this. So I dropped out of graduate school. I quit my waitressing job,
Okay.
and I wrote a business plan, and I started approaching some banks saying that I needed a loan. Well, they explained to me that I probably was not going to qualify for a typical loan because I was 25, no money, no down payment, no collateral, no anything. And I needed $50,000. So one of the bankers was super nice. He's like, you might qualify for a small business administration loan. So I applied for an SBA loan and I got approved, and I was so excited, but they were like, so what that means is you have to come up with 15,000 of your own money, and we'll give you the other 35. And I was like, okay, no problem. Which for me that they could have said a million because I didn't have it. So
Right.
I just figured out that I was going to go shopping that weekend and open up a bunch of credit cards and buy the things that I needed to get my business started. So I went to Macy's and I bought all my office supplies. I bought an electric typewriter and I bought all of the things that we were going to need to set up an office. And then I went to Sears and I opened up a charge card at Sears and bought all the installation tools. And then I went to Ford and I got a new installation van and I got a loan. So I went back into the bank and I said, okay, here's my 15,000. And the banker was like, well, that's not exactly what I was talking about, Jennifer, but we'll let you go with this. So
They let you go with it, huh?
they let me go with it. I mean, they were all legitimate things that I needed, but he explained to me he really didn't like the idea of me starting out in debt. But I was fortunate because I had a product that you go into the home and we measure and we inventory clothes, we draw up a design right on the spot. And then if the customer buys the closet, they give us a 50% deposit up front. And then we go install it 2 to 4 weeks later and they pay the balance. So the cash flow in my business was pretty quick. It wasn't like we were waiting, net 30, net 60, net 90. So the cash flow started working for the business very quickly.
So, did you ever have a moment when you were, 26 years old where you were like, okay, I'm either A, so overwhelmed, I'm not sure what I'm doing, or did you ever have a moment where you're like, pinch me, I got this?
Well, let's see. I just turned 59 2 days ago, and I think I'm still overwhelmed every day. I don't think you ever, entrepreneurship it's just this I love it. It's a challenge. Every day it's something new. So you don't really ever have it. You're constantly, I think, striving for better and striving for more, and you're never happy. When I was 25, I never felt like I had anything, right? I was going to go for it. I was young. I was, I think, willing to take a lot of risks because I didn't have a lot to lose. I didn't have a home. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have kids.
Yeah.
And like a lot of young people, I was like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll do something else. I could go back to waiting tables.
Yeah.
And so I kept, I just kept at it. And here we are 34 years later. I do pinch myself every once in a while and think how grateful I am that I'm surrounded by an amazing team of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have just the greatest staff. My average employee has been with me for over 25 years. So I feel like
Wow.
family,
Yeah.
great employees, great community. St. Louis is a great city to own a business because people really love supporting local businesses.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm always a proponent of is, shop small, support local every
Mm-hmm.
chance you can. And I think my customers are typically women, and they love that it's a women owned business.
So you've been in a bunch of people's homes. I mean, all these years. How do you feel like organization affects people's mental health, their day to day, their outcomes, like their 5-year plan? Because I really feel like my closet and my bathroom are sort of the cornerstone of what has to be organized in my life. If those are a mess, everything's a mess.
Absolutely. Or, organization, they've done studies. It's become in the last 10 or 15 years a really big deal. I think it's always been a big deal, but now there's books about it, there's TV shows about it,
Mhm.
there's podcasts about it.
Yeah.
It's this feeling that once you're organized, this feeling of relaxation or relief or stress reduction, it's like you can find your things, you can see your things, you can get ready faster, your family can get ready faster. People aren't running around at the last minute, with lost homework and where's my backpack and where's my soccer cleats. And they say that if you have an organized closet, it saves you 10 minutes every day looking for things and getting ready. And that's a lot of time.
That's
They've
a lot of time.
Yeah, and then if you multiply it by the people in your family, if you have a household with 2 or 3 kids and a husband and you're all running around looking for stuff, and when you start your day off stressed out, you can't find something, you're running late, it really just sets the tone for the rest of your day. Whereas
Yeah.
if you start off organized, you know what you're going to wear, you can see your shoes, you can find your purse, your kids know where their backpacks are. The whole day just, I think, is set up for success.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it also helps me with shopping because then I can actually see what I have and I don't end up buying duplicates, which I think is part of the clutter problem is that if you're like, I really need a black, stretchy belt and you already have two, you just can't find them. And then you're buying more, then you have more stuffed in a, tight spot.
Right. Well, we live in a world of, I think, too much stuff.
Hmm.
There's a problem with, shopping at big box stores. There's a problem with fast fashion.
Hmm.
That's really trending right now is, how can we stop, going online and buying, a, a, a bag of 10 t-shirts when you really only maybe need one.
Hmm.
Or like my daughter, just graduated from college and her and her friends would buy 6 or 7 dresses, right, on Amazon, and they'd ship them all in and they'd come in bags and then they'd be all over the place. And I was like, just why don't you buy one nice dress that you can wear multiple times
Hmm.
and have, for several years of your life or longer? So we just have too much, right? And then the
Right.
clutter starts building up. We hang on to things because they have an emotional attachment, or we hang on to things sometimes because they're new, because we never
Yeah.
wore them. The tag's
Guilty.
still on them. And you're like, well, I
Yeah.
can't get rid of it. It's still new, but you don't wear
Yeah.
it. So, I'm a big proponent of try on everything, take everything out of your closet. And before you put it back in, try it on. And if you don't love it, love it, and you don't think that you look good in it, or you're not going to wear it, or you haven't worn it, then pull it out of your closet and donate it to a charity or someone who needs clothes. There
Right.
are plenty of people these days that you actually need clothes and coats and shoes that don't have any,
Mm-hmm.
instead of hanging on to it. Because once again, if your closet is cluttered, you can't get dressed quickly and easily. You don't see what you have. Also, some people's closets are so jam packed that their clothes almost get ruined in their closet, right?
Yeah.
They're wrinkled, or their shoes are all scuffed up on top of each other. So, it saves time, it saves money, and it just makes you feel good.
I love a closet clean out. Sometimes it takes me all weekend though, because gotta pull everything out, dust everything down, and trying everything on takes a fair amount of time. I had a girlfriend who worked in one of my salons for years, and she had a baby. And so her body had changed from being, college age, and she had her baby. And now she was deciding, like figuring out what she was going to keep and what she wouldn't keep. And I went over there to hold the baby, and I ended up cleaning out her closet. And it was fun to see her sit there with her newborn, and I would hold everything up. The way that I sort of proposed it to her was like, look, you don't have to get rid of it. You can. I know someone who runs a thrift store that could really use this. So you can, but you don't have to. We can keep it if you think you might wear it again. But let's really focus on the like 100% heck yes. I'll tell you what was really fun was getting texts from her a week later. She's like, I can't believe I'm not crying anymore when I'm trying to get dressed. I can just find the things that actually fit me right now. And so it does make a big difference.
And sometimes, tackling a whole house or
Mm-hmm.
even a whole closet in one day can be overwhelming for some people. You
Yeah.
said you love it, but it still took you a whole weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I recommend people should start small. Like, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are just overwhelmed with clutter in their house and they just don't know where to start. And so they think, oh, it's helpless. I'm going to be on that hoarder show on TV or something.
Yeah.
And it's not, because you should really start small. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
recommend one junk drawer or a linen closet or a coat closet, something small, that maybe you don't have a lot of sentimental things in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And take everything out, clean the closet, maybe have a company like St. Louis Closet Company come in and put in new shelving and an organizer, and then take the items that you're going to put back in there and really look at them. I mean, there's some things that really do just belong in the trash, like a linen closet. If you have old, ripped, dirty towels,
Mm-hmm.
or expired makeup or expired cleaning supplies, or old trash, just trash, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many like I clean out my linen closet like once a year, and I always get, when you go buy your makeup, they give you the free makeup kit, and it comes in a cute little bag, and you think, oh, this is so great. Well, then all of a sudden you're like, the end of the year you have 2 or 3 of them, and you're like, what am I
Uh-huh.
holding on to these for?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so if you start small, you get one area organized. That one area, it's just going to bring you so much joy. You're going to open that door and you're going to take a picture of it. You're going to show your friends. You're going to be like,
Yeah.
look what I did. This is so, so fulfilling. And then you're like, okay,
Right.
now let's tackle something bigger. Let's tackle
Mm-hmm.
a closet, or let's tackle a mud room or a laundry room, or
Mm-hmm.
any of the areas in your home. And then get your family members involved with the process. A really fun thing to do is tell everybody, say, okay, it's Saturday morning and we're going to do something really fun today, but we're going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And every family member has this 20 minutes, and they have to go to their room and find like 5 things, just 5, that they don't want, they don't wear, they've outgrown or ripped or torn or whatever. And then if you think about that, if you have a family of 4, that's 20 things that you're going to get out of your home in 20 minutes.
Right.
So it's like,
That's a great idea.
just make a little fun game out of it and really start looking at what you purchase, right? I mean, do you really, really need it? And of course, we need stuff, right? We have to survive. I'm not saying don't buy food or don't buy toilet paper or whatever, but all the extras that we buy in our life, if you think back, just 20 years ago, there's so much stuff we didn't have.
I know.
I'm really bad on Instagram, right? These ads will pop up and I'll think,
Oh, I
oh,
know.
I need this and I need this and I need this. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need this.
Yeah. I know. I know. And it's a fine line, because you want to enjoy your life, and you don't want to feel like you're always denying yourself. I had a really big overshop while I was laying in bed with my foot up. I had a bad day, and so I went on Nordstrom and I just went nuts. So my 23-year-old son had to come over with his truck, bag it up, and bag me up basically and take me to Nordstrom so I could return all this stuff. And it is funny because that is one of the ways I catch myself coping with stressful or sad times is through shopping. But then it causes this secondary problem where it's like, oh gosh, I didn't need another navy blue dress. I didn't I didn't need this other thing that I bought. So I have to be really careful with what I consume and make sure, like you said, the advice to your daughter, that you're picking something that you love and that you will wear multiple times.
Well, and then, a couple things. There's the one in, one out rule, right? You're going to buy a new dress, great. But then already have in mind which dress you're going to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
You bring one thing in, one thing goes out. You can't go buy 10 new dresses and not get rid of anything, right? It's the
Right.
one in, one out. But there is also this new trending organizational tip. It's called the 30-30 rule.
Okay.
Something, if you're online shopping and something costs more than $30,
Mm-hmm.
supposed to walk away from the computer, walk away from the screen for 30 minutes,
Okay.
and then come back to it and think, do you still want or need this thing after 30 minutes? And then if it's over $300, you're supposed to wait 30 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really have to think about, is this something that's going to make my life better? Is this going to make me happier? Or is this just like an impulse buy? Once again, if you get your home organized and you set up a system, you have, shoe shelves and hanging and drawers and everything is organized, you tend to start thinking more about, wow, I don't really want to mess up that really organized closet because it looks great. And I don't really need that, extra
Yeah.
thing. I want to keep my closet looking great. So sometimes that helps also.
Yeah. It has to be something really, really great that you really love to bring in.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's really good advice.
yeah, and consider the other big trend right now is shopping vintage. Vintage is such a great. I love it, right? Because as my mom has said, Jennifer, hang on to everything; it'll always come back in style.
It's
And here she
true.
is now. She's right, right? My old high school Levi's and Ralph Lauren sweaters. RalphLauren.com has a vintage tab on the website now, and they're selling some of their own vintage clothes that they have collected at vintage stores for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I thought to myself, oh, I had all of those.
You had everything and you
And
let it go.
you just let it go. So
Yeah.
it's this toss up between, I think if you buy quality that
Hmm.
lasts and it's something that you feel really, really good in and you love it, it will last for the test of time, right?
Hmm.
But if you're just buying, there's so much stuff now, plasticky, trinkety, decorations. I mean, there's decorations out for every single holiday, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of that's fun, but then all of a sudden when you open up your pantry and the shelves are just overflowing with, paper plates from every single holiday and decorations and things like
Yeah.
that, you have to really think about, do we need this? And how do you want to live your life? Now, if you live in a house with giant closets and you have room for stuff,
Right.
that's fine. But I think clutter really does bring us down.
I feel like that too. I would completely agree. It's hard to live in clutter. It's hard to find your things. It's hard to know what you have. It's hard to be on time. A lot of these people that have a lot of problems with getting places on time, I think that that's a big part of it. I've had moments where, like after I've had a baby or something, where I don't think I have deodorant because everything's so cluttered. So I buy another deodorant and then I've got a couple different deodorants going, like that kind of thing where you have these duplicates and it just feels like it's taking over.
Right. Well, and then, a cluttered household then leads to a cluttered car and then even a cluttered desk and
Other
a cluttered,
office.
at your office. And, I think for kids, I think that kids actually, I think, crave and love being organized. If you think about it, every kid, when they go to preschool or kindergarten, they have a locker, right? They know at school that their stuff goes in their locker. It doesn't just
Hmm.
go all over the classroom, it goes in their
Hmm.
locker. They know that when they go outside for recess, they get their coat, they put it on, they go to recess, and where does the coat go when they come back in? In the locker. So kids kids understand that already. So if you create that environment at home,
Yeah.
kids will happily, when they're real little, pick up their toys, but give them a basket maybe that says balls or stuffed animals, so they know where those things go. If they can reach their own shoes or reach their own hanging. They can get dressed themselves. You're teaching them to be organized and independent all at the same time. So as they grow up, they take these habits with them. And, it's like you think better if your work surface is cleared off. If you have a place to do your homework or your office work or your pay
Yeah.
your bills at home, if it's just cluttered with junk mail and everybody's stuff, it's hard to
It's this
really.
like background noise. Oh, I got to do that, but I really have to concentrate on this. But you feel like you need to clean first. I feel like if I don't have the house clean, then I can't concentrate on editing or writing or something that I need to do for work because the space is cluttered. So I had a question for you. I read up on you a little bit. There were so many stories that I loved. But the kind of girl that you are is so relatable to me because a couple of the different stories you just kind of, I don't even know what the word would be, but you just kind of went for it. You're like, I'm just doing this. You put yourself out there in a way that sometimes I feel like I know I sometimes struggle with, and I know there'll be people who listen to this and relate to this. But I wanted to talk about you being in business, a woman in business, and then there was a story of how you met your husband and how you're like, oh, he's cute and he's an entrepreneur. And then there's a story of how you met the president. And I don't think either one of those would have happened if you didn't have the kind of personality that you did where you're like, I'm going for it. Did you cultivate that? Were you born naturally with that kind of like chutzpah, or how did you come across that?
Okay, so I think I came by it because of my mom. I think I'm
Yeah.
a lot like my sisters, my kids. They're all like, "You're just like grandma." I think my mom, she grew up in a totally different generation, but she still was just always out there, independent, making decisions, going for what she wanted. And I think that, women are, I think, 51% of our country right now. We've got this, and we need to step up and speak up and go for what we want, no matter what it is. And I feel like I've just always had that scrappiness in me or something. My parents didn't pay for my college. They didn't, buy me a car. I worked since I was 15 years old, and I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Just because we were all entrepreneurs didn't mean we had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I knew that, this is what we had to do. Um, the first little story is how I met my husband. So here I was, I started my business when I was 25, and I was about 27, and all my girlfriends were getting married. And I didn't even have a boyfriend because most of my customers were women, and I was in their closets. And I thought, well, this is not going anywhere. So it was actually Small Business Week, and the St. Louis Business Journal came out, and there was this picture of this really cute boy who was Young Entrepreneur of the Year that year. And I was like, he's cute. He owns his own business. We'd have something in common. I need to meet him. So I bought a ticket for the luncheon, and I walked in and I walked right up to him and I introduced myself. I congratulated him. And he asked me to sit at his table. And we just sort of really hit it off, and we started becoming friends and just, bouncing off business things, right? When you're young and you're running a business,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
not a lot of people to talk to about it. So we became the best of friends. And after about 2 years, we're like, well, this is silly. Why aren't we dating? And then we got married.
I love
So
it.
yeah, that was a great story. Then the president of the United States. Okay, so it was 2001. And that same award that my husband had won,
Uh-huh.
I won the year later. And then I went on to win. It was the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. I won it for the entire state of Missouri.
Wow.
The winners were all invited to a small business conference that was put on by the White House. And it was put on at Ohio State University. And so we went up there. It was a 2-day conference. Now, this was before 9/11. So the president, the vice president, and their entire cabinet traveled together, which they don't do any longer.
Right.
And they were all together at this 2-day conference. And I was sitting there during the official part where the president was talking. He was sitting right next. It was Bill Clinton and Al Gore. They were just sitting there. And I was in the front row, and we were in just a small, like a banquet room at a hotel. It was
Yeah.
Ohio State University, but it wasn't a big room. It was for just the Midwest, and there was 3 or 4 people invited from each state. So there might have been 30 other people there plus the press corps. For all of your younger listeners, this was before cell phones. So, I didn't have a cell phone to take a picture. And I was like, I got it, so I had my camera and I was taking pictures with my camera, but I was like, I got to meet, I am here. I've got to meet, I got to
You
meet the
got to
president.
do it.
And so we went on a break and I was like, this is my chance. So I stood up and I just walked straight up to him. Now, the Secret Service did not like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we were supposed to do that, but I guess I didn't look too, I don't know. Today that would probably never happen, but I just walked straight up and I was like, hi, I want to introduce myself. So I started talking to him and he was amazing. He was like, oh my gosh, you should see the closets in the White House. They're a mess. We need you to come to DC and do the closets in the White House. So, but I don't have a picture of me and the president.
Yeah. I love that story. And I love that neither one of those things, your husband and then all the subsequent things like your children and whatever's going on with your children, that never would have happened. And then the presidential story never would have happened if it weren't for you. No one was coming and tapping you on the shoulder. You initiated that. And I think that that's so cool. There's a certain part of us where as women, we sometimes feel like, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to seem like I'm too forward. But I think by going for it, you got these great experiences.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, this whole I'm a girl. I don't want, come on.
Yeah.
It's time to step up, girls. I mean, it's
Yeah.
time. I mean, this is it. And if you don't take these opportunities or take the risks of owning your own business or whatever it is, you don't want to ever look back in life and be like, well, what if I would have done this? Or what if I would have went to that conference for 2 days and just sat there and never even said hello, right?
I know.
It's a big deal.
This would be a totally different story.
It is. And, I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what your political affiliations are. When you're in a room with the president of the United States, no matter who they are, it is an awestruck moment. You are awestruck because, it's just this amazing feeling. And I would have regretted it if I wouldn't have met him.
So you and your husband are both entrepreneurs. And I'm curious, did that trickle down to your children?
My son actually is working for my business now. He works for St. Louis Closet Company. He graduated from Vanderbilt 3 years ago, and he wanted to come work for me right away, but I told him he had to go work for someone else first.
Yeah.
So he went into general contracting for a year and a half, and then he came over. So he's our director of operations and doing great. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter, she graduated from Vanderbilt a year ago, and she is now in Dallas doing consulting. So she has no interest in the family business. Yeah. I think she is very interested in owning her own business one day. But she is definitely not wanting to be in the family business.
Not wanting to be in the family business. I understand. Yeah. What would you say to someone who is just starting out in business and has an idea and kind of is back where you were when you were 24, not sure what you're going to do? What would you say to somebody like that who's just starting out but has that little fire inside of her and she's a little spark? Any advice for somebody like that?
Well, definitely you need more money than you think you do. Mm-hmm. But probably the biggest advice is surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and know other things. Like you need a team. Even if you're starting a one-person business, you still need a good accountant, a good lawyer, a good consultant. You need a team of people mm-hmm. that you can bounce your ideas off of. You can go to them as experts. And, when you start hiring people, hire people that are smarter than you, right? Those are going to be the people you want to surround yourself with because entrepreneurs, we're not good doers. We're good idea people, right? And we have all these ideas, but if you're going to be successful, you need a really, really good team. Right. And I couldn't do it without my team. I couldn't.
I guess my last question was, I also read that you had a program where you were involved in giving back. So I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about that and what inspired you to do that.
Absolutely. So St. Louis Closet Company, we've always given back to the community. As I said earlier, small business in my community is everything to me. Mm-hmm. But we were doing little things. We were, sponsoring a trivia night, or, as a small business owner, you get inundated with
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to donate
Yeah.
back. And it's a lot, but it's never like a big thing. And a lot of small businesses can't afford big things.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2020, actually it was 2019, I decided I really wanted to put together like a concerted effort, like a real program that made a big difference. And so I created something called Closet for a Cause. And each month and each quarter, we partner with local charities. That was my thing. I was like, I want the money to stay in the St. Louis community. And sometimes we donate a percentage of our sales, and sometimes we will host their events at our showroom. Sometimes we will invite our customers to donate things to the charity.
Mm-hmm.
For example, this month we've partnered with Dress for Success, which is this amazing charity that collects dress clothes for men and women who are either homeless or in shelters or just getting on their feet, and they don't have clothes to go out for interviews. And here I have this whole database of clients who I know have lots of clothes.
Sure.
And so we've become a drop off site for Dress for Success. And my showroom is filling up. It's so wonderful to see with all these wonderful clothes that we're going to be donating. During the holidays, we're the number one largest drop off site for Toys for Tots. And I love that. That is such a fun charity. I tell small businesses all the time, you don't have to write a big check to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like thinking outside of the box. And with social media opportunities, you partner with the charity, right? So it's a win-win. The charity, they have this whole group of people, volunteers and supporters that maybe aren't familiar with your business. And so
Right.
they get to see your business and they get to see what you're doing for them. And then we use our social media platforms and our customer database to help them and their charity. So it's a win for my business, but it's also a win for the community and the charities.